In this week's Sunday Kitchen, we are talking about whether beans can help you live longer, and we are going to be making Sardinian minestrone, which is the staple of one of the longest lived families on the planet. It is delicious and it is full of beans. I've made it with 3 types, tons of veggies, so tasty. We're going to knock it together and then we're going to talk about the health benefits of eating more beans. Okay, kicking off, we're going to soak some beans. These will need to be done kind of half a day before. Black beans, chickpeas, borlotti beans. They are so full of fibre and we'll soak them. You can use tins if you like. Now some veggies, some fennel, potatoes. These are some basil, some parsley, carrot, onion, garlic, and we just chop them all up. That's pretty simple. The fennel takes a bit more to it, obviously. You want the fronds and the base. And we're just going to cube everything so it's nice and tasty inside our minestrone. Alright, we'll start off with, just measure out a little bit of oil. I think I went with 3 or 4 tablespoons. Celery, garlic, and the onion to begin with. Could have chucked the spud in there, I guess, but just work those over for a while. Then the potato, and we'll bring in the rest of the veggies now. So all of it, the fennel, the carrots, all that lovely stuff. Bring it in, work it around, add some tomatoes, bring it up to heat, and then a whole bunch of water. And you want a good inch over the top because the beans and the pasta that goes in later, it's all going to soak up a lot of the moisture. So the beans coming in now, and this is the basis, and we are just going to bring that together. We're going to give it a little bit of seasoning, and then we're going to give it a good old couple of hours. I went for a good 2 hours. This is 2 hours later, so just before you finish it, you're going to bring in the pasta. This is this fine. It's a little bit like couscous. Sometimes called Israeli or pearl couscous, and it is delicious. Alrighty, so here we have the finished masterpiece, and before we start talking about the beans, let us just revel in the glory that is this minestrone. You're supposed to finish it with a little drizzle of olive oil, and then I'm going to add a bunch of pepper because I love pepper, and a little bit of salt as well. And that is our Sardinian minestrone, the longevity soup of, I think in 2012 they were designated the longest lived family on the world. They eat it every day. There can't be a lot wrong with it. It is full of wonderful plant-based proteins, tons of fibre, obviously all those veggies, the various micronutrients, and because you've got all that oil in there, it draws all those nutrients out, they're absorbed, and it is just amazing food. This is amazing food. So, yeah, I just think that's a bit special really. Obviously it's a faff to make, but you know, if you made a big kind of vat of it on a Sunday, and then spread it out through the week, this is a really healthy way to eat. Get all your veggies in, get your micros in, just in one lunchtime each day. Add a bit of sardenga bread, and this is marvelous. You can also grate some pecorino cheese. I bought some cheese, but I haven't done it. So some type of kind of simple Romano cheese, I think, is just a little bit of that grated on top. And then if you're in Sardinia, you would probably have some sardenga breads, which are those glorious flat breads that you can dip because they're just majestic. Let us talk about the beans and what they can do for our longevity. Alrighty, so in this week's Fat Loss Kitchen section, we're not really talking about fat loss so much as we are about longevity, because the subject of this week is beans. And you know, beans have got great amount of protein, great amount of fibre. They can be really useful for weight loss. But that pales into their significance as a longevity food. And back in, I think, maybe about 2012, 2013, I had a friend who was really into CrossFit and hence really into paleo. And I remember getting in a big argument about beans because a lot of people in the CrossFit kind of paleo world think beans are full of anti-nutrients, and you know, they leach chemicals out of the body, and they're not really very healthy. And so lots of people just won't eat beans. And I found this kind of troubling, but I didn't really know. So I went away very quickly, and the second you go into the literature, it is quite ridiculous how strongly the consumption of legumes favors longevity. And you know, beans are just a wonderful, wonderful food for your gut health, you know, just for your general health, to increase your fiber consumption. They're just really wonderful, and there are multiple lines of evidence, but I'm just going to throw up a couple. So they have studied, they've tried to tease out the correlation, and to a degree the causation, but most of the correlation between different foodstuffs and longevity. And again, there are many papers that simply show that legumes, beans, are simply one of the healthiest, one of the best predictors of longevity in the world. So when they do these broad kind of studies, they find again and again that legume consumption is really healthy and it's associated with longevity. Next line of evidence is, I'm not sure when it was, maybe back in 2006, there was a guy named Dan Buettner who published a book called The Blue Zones, where he'd gone around the world for National Geographic and he tried to study the longest lived societies on Earth. And he found these kind of 5 areas where there was a really high proportion of centenarians, so people living to 100. They were in Okinawa in Japan, Icaria in Greece, Sardinia for our Sardinian soup in Italy, Loma Linda in California, and I think somewhere else, Nicoya maybe in Costa Rica. So these 5 areas, and when he went through the foods, and I'll show you a link to the website now, basically the one food that he again came out with was beans, legumes. Eat your beans, eat a cup of them a day, eat tons of them because they are so healthy. This is one of those foods that all the longest lived societies on Earth are eating. And then further to that, maybe 5 months ago, I read this great book called The Longevity Diet, which has a bit of a plant-based angle to it, but it's mostly about the study of longevity. Once again, one of Dr. Voltalongo is one of the leading, I think he does the director of Longevity Institute at USC, and beans are his food again. The consumption of legumes is incredibly healthy, and it's one of these, if you look at the data, like Americans don't eat beans. There's very little consumption of beans in America, and the primary reason people don't eat them is, fear of flatulence, which is, a little bit of farting, you don't want to live long, kind of crazy to me. But I think beans are absolutely wonderful. The evidence base is spectacular. And the ways that you can incorporate them very simply, just to add some more plant-based protein and fiber into your diet, really good for gut health, is just into your lunch. Minestrone, salads, you can get them in tins, you can, if you're cooking soups, you can get the dried ones I've just used. There are so many ways. There are lots of these little pre-packed ones that you can just sprinkle into a salad now, and they've all got little varying different benefits to them and different nutrients, so they work really well in salads in particular, but in soups, in any type of stew, they are just fabulous. So if there is any way that you can incorporate beans into your diet on a more regular basis, 2-3 times a week, it has the potential to really benefit your guts and your health in the long run. Fabulous for your bowel, so healthy, and it is truly one of the very few foods that we can call a longevity food. So beans are wonderful. This Sardinian minestrone is absolutely fabulous. This is the first time I've ever made it, and I tried to let it go as long as I could. I let it go for about 3 hours to really kind of leach out all the flavor. Just put the pasta in right at the end, and it is very good. And my wife had a taste and she's like, wow, can you save me some? So that is high praise. Give the minestrone a try. It is absolutely delicious, and obviously you can make a big old chunk of it and it would sort out your micronutrition every lunchtime when you're eating that. It is a fabulous food to eat. Well worth the effort of chopping up all those veggies, and you can play with it however you like. That's us for this week. Make sure in the next week or so I'll have a whole bunch of stuff coming about the Weekday Weight Loss Plan. So make sure you check that out, because we're going to have it in place for January, and then we're going to go through all the 7 different segments of it so we can kind of customize each of those different bits, the target routine, meals, whatever they are, to suit your needs and get your fat loss on the rails. Okay, I'll talk to you next week. Thanks so much for your time.